All right. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. We are back. Continuing on with our look at the triennial Torah portion. This week, we are going to be looking at, let's see here. Oh, wait a second. Where's my little banner? Oh, there we go. Numbers 21 and 22. We supposed to look at 21 last week, but we didn't get to it. So we'll look at some things over there in 21 so that we can deal with 22, which begins the story which involves Balaam, which is called Balak. Okay, Balak. All right, there are. This will be just the beginning of Balaam's story. We'll get into the first part of it. There'll be more to come on next week. But we're going to deal, like I said, with chapter 21 and 22. All right, so let me go ahead and pull up. We'll go back to look at, let's see here, 21, and let's see. We'll read half at a time, I guess. Let's see here. Pull up the chapter. Numbers. Let's read down to verse 9. Start at 21 and read down chapter 21 down through verse 9.
And the sovereign Arad and the Canaanite who dwelt in the south heard that Yisrael was coming on the way to Atharim, and he fought against Yisrael and took some of them captive. Then Yisrael made a vow to Yahweh and said, "If you deliver this people into my hand, indeed, then I shall put their cities under the ban." And Yahweh listened to the voice of Yisrael and gave up the Canaanites and put them and their cities under the ban. So the name of that place was called Hormah. And they departed from the Mount of Or by the way of the Sea of Reeds to go around the land of Edom. But the being of the people grew impatient because of the way. And the people spoke against Elohim and against Moshe. Where am I? Why have you brought us up out of Mitzrayim to die in the wilderness? For there is no food and no water, and our being loathes this light bread. And Yahweh sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and many of the people of Israel died. Then the people came to Moshe and said, "We have sinned, for we have spoken against Yahweh and against you. Pray to Yahweh to take away the serpents from us." So Moshe prayed on behalf of the people. And Yahweh said to Moshe, "Make a fiery serpent and set it on a pole. And it shall be that everyone who is bitten, when he looks at it, shall live." So Moshe made a bronze serpent and put it on a pole. And it came to be, if a serpent had bitten anyone, when he looked at the bronze serpent, he lived.
Okay. All right. As we're sitting here, I just got some revelation. Let me just hold on 1 second. Let me write this down before I forget. One second. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so we go back up here to look at these verses over here. We see that it begins kind of where we were dealing with last week in terms of, well, besides the fact of the whole thing with Aaron and Moses and the disobedience, there also was where it spoke of the movement of Israel, continuing to move forward towards the land. And so it's kind of, the scriptures here are recalling the movement of Israel as they go. Interestingly enough, when we see the people, as it begins over in, to speak about it in verse 4, as they go, knowing that going around Edom is a long way. I believe in the previous chapter, Edom forbids them from going forward, through there. So we know that they weren't able to go that way. But the people, of course, understanding that now they have to go the long way, they grow impatient, as it says, and they begin with their typical complaint. It's interesting that it's always the same complaint. It's almost as if there's this particular spirit that comes on these people and causes for them to kind of have the same issue every time. And so we look over here and we see something interesting that these people say, which is in verse 5. They have a list of complaints, right? They brought us out of Egypt to die in the wilderness. There's no food. There's no water. And our souls hate this light bread. This here is the scriptures version. Some versions say miserable food. Here, let's see what the King James says here. Verse 5. It says, it just calls it light bread. So I want to look at this word light here. Kalokal. Insubstantial. So not light as in brightness or like light rays, but light as in weight. Like there's no substance to this insubstantial bread. But remember, we're speaking about the bread from heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, we're speaking about the manna, this thing that has actually sustained the people throughout the the trek that the people have been on throughout the wilderness. And so when we look at this, it's interesting, what these people have to say about what it is that the Most High is doing for them. He's giving them this miraculous bread that, in fact is substantial. It is, in fact, this thing that is literally giving them all of their nutrients that they need to live, through this wilderness. Right? And they're referring to it as this thing that's insubstantial. Let's see. This is what the Strong says. Let's see if we go down. The word study says it's this meaning, adjective meaning worthless, miserable.
Attractive.
Right? They're calling this thing worthless. It's good for, it's raka. It's this thing that's good for nothing. Right? Bread. By the way, it's the bread that the Most High is giving them to live. And so as we're reading this, I'm thinking about Yeshua. Right? Whenever he said that he is, let's see here where he says it at. He is the bread from heaven. Mm-hmm. Right? Hold on, let me find it. John, let's see here. John chapter 6 and 31. Here, let me pull this up. This is very interesting. Let me think about it in this way. John 6, start reading at verse 31. Let's see here. Hold on. Here, just start reading right here.
25. All right. John 6:25. And having found him on the other side of the sea, they asked him, Rabbi, when did you come here? Yahweh answered them and said, Yeshua answered them and said, Truly, truly, I say to you, you seek me, not because you saw signs, but because you ate of the loaves and were satisfied. Do not labor for the food that is perishing, but for the food that is remaining to everlasting life, which the Son of Adam shall give you. For the Father Elohim has set his seal on him. So they said to him, What should we do to work the works of Elohim? Yeshua answered and said to them, This is the work of Elohim, that you believe in him whom he sent. So they said to him, What sign then would you do, so that we see and believe you? What would you do? Our fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, as it has been written, He gave them bread out of heaven to eat. Therefore Yeshua said to them, Truly, truly, I say to you, Moshe did not give you the bread out of the heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread out of the heaven. For the bread of Elohim is he who comes down out of the heaven and gives life to the world. So they said to him, Master, give us this bread always. And Yeshua said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall not get hungry at all, and he who believes in me shall not get thirsty at all.
Okay, very good. So we see over here this little dialogue that's happening with Yeshua and these people who are coming and asking him these questions, and he begins to refer to himself as the bread of Elohim. He's the bread of heaven, and he compares himself to the manna that was given to the people from heaven. Now, this manna is this thing that sustained them, right? He talks about in verse 35, the bread of life, who comes to me shall not get hungry, from partaking of him who is this bread of heaven, the bread that comes out of heaven, that gives life. It won't be hungry and you won't thirst at all. Now, again, he's comparing himself to manna, which was this thing that caused the people to be able to eat it and not be hungry, and they went long stints without water, to the point where the complainers complained about their thirst. But nonetheless, this manna was a type of Messiah that provided the people with their hunger and thirst and nutrients as they went. But those people, like we read over in Numbers chapter 21, hated this bread from heaven. They hated it. They loathed this thing. They loathed it, and they referred to it as this miserable, worthless, insubstantial thing. They treated it as if it was nothing. And so when we think about what those people were doing, how they treated the manna, the complainers, the ones that end up dying, or the ones that end up getting plagued, right? The ones who were speaking out against the thing that was saving them. We read how they all die. And so it's interesting that when we look over here in John chapter 6, when we see this little dialogue between these people and Yeshua referring to himself as this bread of heaven, and we think about the way that he is treated by his own people, where he came to bring them nourishment and salvation and food and drink, and these people did nothing but the naysayers, that is, did nothing but ridicule and question and have all of this disbelief about the situation. Let's look at some more of this. We're going to go back, but these people act just like the people over Numbers. Let's go, keep on going. Read 36.
It says, but I said to you that you have seen me and still do not believe. All that the Father gives me shall come to me, and the one who comes to me I shall by no means cast out. Because I have come down out of the heaven, not to do my own desire, but the desire of him who sent me. This is the desire of the Father who sent me, that all he has given me I should not lose of it, but should raise it in the last day. And this is the desire of him who sent me, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him should possess everlasting life. And I shall raise him up in the last day. Therefore the Yehudim were grumbling against him, because he said, I am the bread which came down out of the heaven. And they said, is not this Yeshua, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How is it then that he says, I have come down out of the heaven? Then Yeshua answered and said to them, do not grumble with one another. No one is able to come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I shall raise him up in the last day. It has been written in the prophets, and they shall be taught by Yahweh. Everyone then who has heard from the Father and learned comes to me. Not that anyone has seen the Father except he who is from Elohim, he has seen the Father. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me possesses everlasting life. I am the bread of life. Your fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, and they died. This is the bread which comes down out of the heaven, so that anyone might eat of it and not die. I am the living bread which came down out of the heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he shall live forever. And indeed, the bread that I shall give is my flesh, which I shall give for the life of the world.
Okay, very good. So we see over here, again, Yeshua makes this definite connection. You have the people who deny the connection as being made. Yeshua again affirms this connection. He says that he is the bread of life. But again, the thing that we want to pay attention to is the fact that these people over here, who the non-believers, by the way, non-believers are rejecting the bread from heaven. They're rejecting the very thing that the Most High is sending to save them, right? And we know, that the thing that these people hate literally becomes their salvation. The thing that they hate is their salvation. Just like over in Numbers, the thing that they hate, this manna, it saved them. It kept them alive. That's what they ate, right? Meanwhile, they are acting as if this thing is
Hurting.
Well, it's nothing. I guess hurting them is almost an understatement. Let me see. Where does the verse sound?
Probably didn't need to drink anything either. They ate that.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that they got to the point of extreme thirst and was ready for drink. But the manna, this bread from heaven, as a foreshadow of Yeshua, is this thing that's giving them, is providing their hunger and their thirst.
He said, you drink from me, you'll never have to drink. You'll never thirst again.
Right. And it's just all him. Right? Here, what's this say over here?
I was thinking about how, like, even with us, when we did our liquid fast, just the whole concept of chewing was something that we missed,
Yeah.
So maybe they just missed, drinking different textures.
Well, it's something, I guess, that could be missed.
But it's all carnal, though.
Yeah, when you go about it in the right way, you're fine. Let's see. Read 21 and 22 there.
Says, I thank you, for you have answered me and have become my deliverance. The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone.
Okay, yes, very good. It's the stone that the builders rejected. When we go back in Numbers, the stone that the builders rejected is the thing that sustained them, is the manna. And so also when we look down and we look at if we get down to verse 6, another interesting connection is that when we see in let's see here, back in Numbers 21. Oh wait, 21. When we see that these people who were doing all this complaining, by the way, complaining against the Most High, complaining against His sustenance and the things that He sent to bring them life, it says that Yahweh sent fiery serpents against the people, and it bit the people, and then the people died.
Mm.
And then the very thing that that they hated, the serpents, became the thing that they had to look to for their salvation, which was this fiery serpent.
Mm.
that right there was so interesting, because when we look at this thing, the serpent, these serpents, this snake was the thing that was killing them. It was the thing that they loathed, this thing, obviously, because it was something that was killing them. But lo and behold, that very thing became the thing that they had to look to so that they could have life.
Mm.
And so when we think about this, it causes us to think about Yeshua. Again, he was this one. He criticized those people because they were looking at him for the wrong reasons. You see me doing all of these things and feeding people and all of these fancy things. You're not following after me because of true faith and belief, right? He questions these people and their motives. What is it that they're really following? Are they following the image, this person, this thing, or the power that is behind all of this?
Yeah.
Right? He goes to say, hold on, let me go back over it real quick. He says up here in verse here, read this again, 37.
Says, all that the Father gives me shall come to me, and the one who comes to me I shall by no means cast out.
Yeshua over here is doing the work of the Father. He's doing what the Father is having for him to do. So it's not necessarily about these things, these miraculous things. It's not like they're sitting up here watching David Blaine or somebody do all of these tricks, right? He's literally doing the work of the Most High. And again, he is the one who is indeed these people's salvation. And so it's interesting when we look at this and see what happens with back in Numbers, what happens with this whole thing with these serpents, right? These fiery serpents, which is it's a judgment against the people. But then the answer, the resolution to this plague of the fiery serpents is in fact the this bronze serpent that they look to. And so when we think about this whole thing that goes on over here with this whole making of this bronze serpent, it's interesting because we talked about hukat, or these various decrees that are made, these various statutes that are made in the scriptures. And we talked about it in relation to the red heifer, and we spoke about these statutes and talked about these various details that we have inside of these statutes. But one aspect of statutes that we didn't talk about was that sometimes when we think about these statutes and we look at them and try to understand them from a physical perspective, they're things that are quite peculiar, to say the least. If we were to remember the whole thing with the red heifer and all that happened with the red heifer and all of that, thinking about it from a physical, kind of even a logical standpoint, it's hard to really rectify in our minds. But the same thing is true with this over here, which is also a statute, a hook that the Most High has put in place with this whole thing, with this instance, with this serpent that Moses makes. And it's interesting, kind of the things that it causes us to think about when we look at this, because the image of death becomes a source of life, right? The thing that's killing them, this image of death, becomes, for the people who look to it and believe, it becomes a source of life. The serpent here, this serpent becomes, it brings death and punishment for the sin, right? The serpent brings death and punishment for the sin that the people were doing. But also the serpent also brings life, right? When you look to the serpent, the people were made to live. And so we see this same imagery between the one that brings the judgment, the one that brings the death, the one that exacts the consequences of the sin, also is the one that you look to for life. And so again, when we think about this and think about Yeshua, where we know that Yeshua will indeed be sitting on the throne and judging all of the acts and deeds and words of people and deciding who will make it and who will not. But he's also that same one who gives us the ability to experience everlasting life. He's the one that gives us life, and he's also the one that issues us the death that we deserve as a result of coming against the Most High.
Double-edged sword.
Yes, he is indeed that. And so it's interesting that we see that picture with this serpent, where it's not like he sends a serpent and then he sends this other, he tells Moses to make this other thing as a picture to be looked at for life, but it's the very same thing. And so it's a picture of Yeshua. We see the manna here because the manna is this thing that he sent for life, and the people hated it, but it was saving them. Yeshua, he sent Yeshua to bring us back to himself. The Most High sent us Yeshua to bring us back to himself. And, we hated Yeshua. Meanwhile, he is the pathway to life. But it's interesting when we look at this that there is this symbol, right? This sign, this thing that the people are to look to that brings about life. And so when we think about that, thinking about that's interesting because, we have, in today's day and age where people, they walk around with their crosses on their, around their necks to show that they are a Christian, right? To show their solidarity to Christ, this cross. But when we think about that in relation to this over here, the Most High did not create for his people an idol over here, right? It's the same thing that he did in terms of, when we think about him giving of this manna. The same people who ate the manna and enjoyed it, those same ones were the ones who believed in the saving power of the Most High. And so they saw the power behind the thing that the Most High was doing. When Yeshua talks to these people who were following him based on the things that he was doing, and people were asking for a sign, and Yeshua says, a wicked generation looks for a sign, right? He did all of these things not so that you could marvel at the things that he was doing, but so that you were able to look towards the Father and the power, that gave him the ability to do all of these things, right? And so when we think about that in terms of this whole, looking at this sign, this symbol, the Most High wasn't calling for these people to look at some idol, or he was calling for the people to look towards him. Let's look over at 2 Kings. 2 Kings 18 verse I'll just start reading at verse 1, read down to verse 4.
And it says, "And it came to be in the 3rd year of Hoshea, son of Elah, sovereign of Israel, that Hizkiah, son of Ahaz, sovereign of Yehuda, began to reign. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Abi, son of Zechariah, right? Yeah. And he did what was right in the eyes of Yahweh, according to all that his father David did. He took away the high places and broke the pillars, and cut down the Asherah, and broke in pieces the bronze serpent which Moshe had made. For until those days the children of Israel burned incense to it, and called it Nehushtan? Yeah.
Nehushtan.
Yeah, Nehushtan.
Okay, so this thing that the Most High told Moses to make, the people looked at the thing and began to worship it. They missed the whole point of the thing and turned the thing that the Most High made into an idol, right? The Most High hates idols, right? He didn't never call for the people to worship some other idol. He wanted for the people to look up to him to receive the thing. So the people were supposed to have been looking beyond this thing and understanding the power of the Most High, that he was the one who was actually bringing in the healing. But look over here in John. Read John and 3 and start reading at verse 13. Yeah, wait, 13 down to 16.
And no one has gone up into the heaven except he who came down from the heaven, the son of Adam. And as Moshe lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, and even so the son of Adam has to be lifted up, so that whoever is believing in him should not perish, but possess everlasting life. 16, right?
Yeah, read 16.
For Elohim so loved the world that he gave his only brought forth son, so that everyone who believes in him should not perish, but possess everlasting life.
Okay, very good. So when we think about the idea of the Son of Man being lifted up, what is it that we need to do in order to not perish but have everlasting life? The thing that we need to do is not concentrate on a particular aspect of, his process was involved him dying, from a Roman torture process. But in the totality of what it means to, of what he has done for us in terms of being our Redeemer, being our Deliverer, we're looking towards his saving power and not towards the shame and the guilt that he took on, which was, a part of the process, but it's not the entirety of the thing. And so, just like when the Most High told Moses to make this thing that people can look at, the thing that brought life to the people wasn't the thing, but was the power behind the thing. And so, people look at this cross as if it is like a talisman or some type of this thing that you have that brings about good luck, or something that even shows your it became this symbol for Christianity. But when we go back and look at the righteous king, he says that he has to destroy all of these things because of the people turned this thing into an idol. And that's just what we do. We turn these things that the Most High brings about. We turn these things into idols. Like the Most High told the people when they went into the land to make these pillars with the stones, when they got there. But the people, they had to sit up there and they make the thing into an idol. And of course the snake, of course, they did the same thing. All right, so let's go back over here. I just thought it was interesting to look at the fact that the connection between the serpent and the manna and Yeshua and all that, it all seemed quite interesting to me. So let's go over here and look at some more of this so we can get into the next chapter here. Let's see here. Let's go down. We'll read from 10, and we'll just go ahead and let's see. We'll finish up the chapter here. Hold on one second.
And the children of Israel set out and camped in Abath. And they departed from Abath and camped at Habarim in the wilderness, which is east of Moab, towards sunrise. From there they set out and camped at the Wadi Zered. And from there they set out and camped on the other side of the Arnon, which is in the wilderness that extends from the border of the Amorites. For the Arnon is the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites. Therefore it is said in the book of battles of Yahweh, Waheb, in Suphah, the Wadi Arnon. The slope of the wadi that turns aside to the dwelling of Ar and lies on the border of Moab, and from there on the Be'er, which is the well where Yahweh said to Moshe, "Gather the people and let me give them water." Israel then sang this song. Spring up, O well, sing to it. A well the leaders sank, which the nobles of the people dug with their staves, by the word of the inscriber. Then from the wilderness on to Mattanah. From Mattanah to Nahaliel. From Nahaliel to Bamoth. And from Bamoth, in the valley that is in the country of Moab, to the top of Pisgah, which looks down on the wasteland. Go over it. Unless you don't.
So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
these people over here, these people won't find this book over here, this book of the battles of Yahweh.
So somebody probably gonna come up with one.
People want to find that book so they can read it. But if that's the most important thing in it, is right here in Numbers 21:14. It's only mentioned there in that regard. I feel like that's all it needs to tell me. Might just could verify or further verify this thing that the scriptures already tell me about. I'm just saying, somebody wants to find that thing. As far as I know, I don't think there's any known book of the battles of Yahweh that people have found up until this point. 2021. All right, keep going. 21.
And Israel sent messages to Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, saying, "Let me pass through your land. We shall not turn off into fields or vineyards. We shall not drink water from wells, but go by the sovereign's highway until we have passed over your border." But Sihon would not allow Israel to pass through his border. So Sihon gathered all his people together and went out against Israel in the wilderness. And he came to Yahatz and fought against Israel. And Israel struck him with the edge of the sword and took possession of his land from the Arnon to the Yabok, as far as the children of Ammon, for the border of the children of Ammon was strong. And Israel took all these cities, and Israel dwelt in all the cities of the Amorites, in Heshbon and in all its villages. For Heshbon was the city of Sihon, the sovereign of the Amorites, who had fought against the former sovereign of Moab, and had taken all his land from his hand as far as the Arnon. That is why those who speak in Proverbs say, "Come to Heshbon, let the city of Sihon be built and established." For fire went out from Heshbon, a flame from the city of Sihon. It consumed Ar of Moab, the masters of the heights of Arnon. Woe to you, Moab! You have perished, O people of Chemosh. He has given his sons as fugitives and his daughters into captivity to Sihon, the sovereign of the Amorites. Then we shot them. Heshbon has perished as far as Dibon, and we laid waste as far as Nophah, which reaches to Medeba, right? Yeah, Medeba.
All right, so let's take notice of a few things we see over here where there are people, connected to the Moabites who are now, perishing, being affected negatively by the path of Israel. Not because Israel wanted to go through and go on a killing spree, or they are going from one place to another, and then as they go, these people decided that they were going to attack Israel. Right? Israel wasn't like, let's go over here and kill these people. We want to just go through. He said, verse 22. He said, they just want to go by the King's Highway until we pass over your border. The King's Highway is going to be the easiest path through the territory. The King's Highway, as they call it that, as they go through, it's going to be the easiest way to get through. Right? It's not the scenic route. It's the most direct path through. Let us just go through your place. We got to get over there. You're in the middle of where we're trying to get to. We're just trying to go through. The people are like, nah, we're going to fight against you. And then, so it just so happens you're dealing with the people of the Most High. So they lose, of course. Right? But in so on their way, they just they gonna beat these people up. They could stay wherever they need to stay at, cause they beat them, right? And so again, it's not as if they're out looking for a fight. They're going from A to B. The people fight against them. And so now this is just what happens. So if now I don't got to be in such a hasty hurry to get through.
I can leisurely walk.
I could just chill.
I own it.
Yeah, it's mine now. You came against me. I beat you. This is my spot. And so
what you gonna do?
They're not gonna do anything, right? And so we see this happening. And it's interesting that the people that is happening to take note of as we go forward. Again, this is not the destination of Israel. Israel's not trying to be here. They're trying to be over in the land which the Most High promised to them. But this just happens to be the way in which they are going. And so, they come through. And they beat these people who are connected with the Amorites. They beat these people who are connected with, the Moabites, who we'll see later are in, with these people who are trying to come against them. So let's continue. Let's keep going down. Let's see. Oh, we only got 5 verses left. Let's read these last 5 verses of this chapter here.
It says, So Israel dwelt in the land of the Amorites, and Moshe sent to spy out Yazer, and they took its villages and drove out the Amorites who were there, and turned and went up by the way to Bashan, and Og, sovereign of Bashan, went out against them. And he and all his people to the battle of Edrei, I'll say. And Yahweh said to Moshe, "Do not fear him, for I have given him into your hand with all his people and his land. And you shall do to him as you did to Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, who dwelt at Heshbon." And they struck him and his sons and all his people, until no remnant was left to him. And they took possession of his land.
Okay, very good. So now it's almost as if a precedent has been set. These people are going to, not be hospitable to Israel, and Israel is now just going through and just, they're just reckless. They're reckless abandon on these people. It's just taking over the possession of all of these lands, of these people that are on the way. And so as this is happening now, there is, Israel becomes now, the talk of the town, you should say. They're coming. These people are coming. What should we do? When they come to where we are, they're going to kill us. When these people get to where we are, they're going to slaughter us. Now, I'm sure if the people of these places would just be like, y'all could just go through, no problem, I feel like there wouldn't be no problem. Because again, Israel is not, the Most High didn't bring them out of Egypt for them to dwell in these places. He's taking them to a place that's going through. If they was to come up to these people and the people was like, go ahead, y'all got it, go ahead through. I'm sure there wouldn't be no issues. But that's obviously not what's going on. So this continues on into the next chapter. Let's go over to the next chapter and see what happens next. So let's see how far we want to read down to. Let's just read this a little at a time. I just want to read the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 verses here.
And it says, "And the children of Israel set out and camped in the desert plains of Moab beyond the Jordan of Yahiroth. And Balak, son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. And Moab was exceedingly afraid of the people, because they were many, and Moab was in dread because of the children of Israel. And Moab said to the elders of Midian, now this company is licking up all that is around us, as an ox licks up the grass of the field. Now Balak, son of Zippor, was sovereign of the Moabites at that time. And he sent messengers to Balaam, son of Beor, at Pethor, which is near the river in the land of the sons of his people, to call him, saying, See, a people has come from Mitzrayim. See, they have covered the surface of the land and are settling next to me. And now, please, come at once, curse this people for me, for they are too strong for me. It might be that I strike them and drive them out of the land, for I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed."
Okay, very good. So we see over here an interesting thing that's going on. First of all, as I said, Israel is kind of making a name for itself, at least in the eyes of the elders of Moab. The Moabites, were a nomadic people. So you could have a particular people that dwelled with other people. And so the Moabites, they hung out with the Midianites, and with those other people too from the Amorites, the Ammonites that was in the other place, because the Moabites actually was able to experience the tactical prowess of Israel, in those other places. And so now the word is spreading, and it talks about these people over here who it says was in dread. Right? They were exceedingly afraid. I don't know what's the say over. Turn aside. Let's see here. Fear.
Shrink.
Afraid. Moed. Mayod. Vehemently. Wholly. Steadily. Okay, so they were really afraid. Right?
All that to say, they were scarred.
They were definitely scared, right, of this people. And so it's interesting. It's interesting the way that we react because of fear. When there is something that causes us to fear and to dread, whether or not there's an actual a real reason for us to be afraid or not.
Wow.
Sometimes we we go now, and then now we have this whole thing that we have to play out to ensure our safety as a result of this thing that we're afraid of.
Mm.
Where, they devised this plan to go and come against Israel, but why couldn't the plan be, let's make peace with this people. Let's see what this people is about. Let's try to reason with these people. Why is it this? Fear causes us to think about things unreasonably. I saw it causes us to do strange things that we wouldn't normally do under normal circumstances. I saw this little video. This lady had these little dogs in her backyard, and there was like a bear like on her fence, and so she runs towards the bear she pushes the bear off of the fence. You seen that?
Yes.
Like, under no circumstances am I going to encounter a bear, no matter what this. Well, if it's my kids, maybe. I guess people.
She was protecting the dog.
I guess if a bear was around and it was about to get Charlie, maybe you would.
Nope. Sorry, Charlie.
Sorry, Charlie. But fear of something happening causes you sometimes to do things without thinking all the way through the consequences that are attached to these things. Cause you to act irrationally. And I feel like this is what happened over here with these people, where they were so afraid of what might happen that they had to come up with this elaborate scheme to prevent this thing that could maybe potentially happen.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
That the thing that they wanted, they couldn't beat them in the physical, so they wanted to try to circumvent physical
They needed some
war
spiritual help.
against some spiritual help.
Yeah. Which, when you think about it, it kind of didn't make any sense, because if you understand the power that's behind them, then you know that you can't come against that.
Yeah.
I don't think they understood that.
Well, obviously.
And I think a lot of these nations, I wonder if they had, like, false deities, like, motivating them to actually go to war with them. Because it seems like every nation was just so hostile.
Yeah.
It's like, what we do to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's when you think about it, at the end of the day, when you think about people and their wicked actions, when we're supposed to, as the scripture talks about how we're supposed to view all men according to the Spirit.
Yeah.
And so, when I see these people who do these wicked and perverse things, I know that they're doing these things not because of their own selves, but because of this wicked spirit that's upon them. We don't battle against flesh and blood, but against these things that happen in the spiritual realm.
Right.
And so when you have these people who are coming against Israel for no apparent reason, I mean, Esau was one thing. They had a history. Israel and Esau, the Edomites, there's a history there. So we could see why they would refuse.
Ain't Moab their cousin?
They're all cousins, right? The Moabites are the descendants of Lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when we look at all of this, if you go back far enough, these people are kins. However, again, when we think about, this idea of people operating under these evil spirits, that trumps it all. And so when we look over here at what they do now, they go and find this person, this Balaam person, who obviously he's made a name for himself. They said over in verse number 6, it said in verse 6, hold on, let's see here. He said, "For I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed." He knows that somehow. Somehow he knows that the word is out that Balaam, if he blesses you, he blesses you. And if he curses you, you're cursed. I don't know where this comes from. But they heard about him, and the first person they thought about whenever they have this nation coming up against them is Balaam.
Let me tell you this quick little story, right?
Go ahead.
There was this witch, right?
My goodness.
A modern day witch, who was telling the story about somebody he was trying to curse.
Yeah.
Now this is a
witch. A male witch.
Who became a Christian. And so he was telling the story how, like, he was saying exactly what you just said. Like, if I curse you, you're cursed, you're done. And if I give you the blessing, you're blessed, right? He said, and then somebody came to him wanting him to curse this woman. And so he was doing all of these things that they do as witches, blood, little things and all this stuff, right? Yeah. And he said nothing will work. And then he said he kept going. And then the demon that he was in communication with him just told him, like, you can't do nothing to her. Yeah. She's protected. And it's because she was a Christian. And so literally, I think this is the same scenario where he had this reputation of being able to do these things because he was dealing with a power, not the Most High, but dealing with a power. And then that power itself told him, like, nah, we ain't nothing we can do with these people.
Yeah. Okay, so one thing I want to say, we're just going to look at this chapter today. We know scriptures, we know what happens. But one thing I want to pay attention to is, where do we see in these scriptures where Balaam goes off? Where do we see that he follows along with what it is that these people are asking of him? And can we say, what can we say are the problems of Balaam? Something that we want to just kind of think about as we look at this. If we look over, just keep on going over here. Let's read just real fast. Let's read just the next verse. Just verse number 7.
And the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian left with the fees for divination in their land, and they came to Balaam and spoke the words of Balak to them.
Okay, very good. So let's look at this here, verse 7. Verse 7. The King James says they departed with the rewards of divination. This version here, the scriptures kind of has this, the fees for is kind of italicized. um, the italicization of these words in the scripture kind of just really means that it's something that's added to kind of give you a better understanding of what it is that is meaning, not necessarily meaning that that's what the actual words are in their original language. And so when we look over here at this word here, let's see here, in the Hebrew, where it talks about the rewards of divination, this word here, kesem, is a lot, also divination, including its fee, right? Because when we think about the idea of divination, there's a fee associated with it, right? It's kind of a package deal. When we think about the idea of divination, it's basically when you think about these quote unquote prophets or oracles, these people who are giving you this divine spiritual information, they're doing it for a fee. And it's interesting that I remember when looking at TV kind of back in the days, and maybe late night you would see like these Christian prophets that would have people call up, and you give an offering or a donation, and they would give you some word of wisdom or prophecy or something, for your donation. I don't know what the difference is here.
The prayer rag, all of that stuff.
Yeah, we'll send you this thing, this protective thing, and I'll give you a word from on high if you donate to what we're doing over here. I'll send you some of this special holy water, or it's divination.
Absolutely.
Because it's the thing that you're speaking with the fee with it. You're hearing this, I'm saying we're just gonna assume that you're hearing these words from the Most High, and then now you've monetized this thing, and you've turned it into a racket. It's a business.
And we know the scripture clearly states in many different places where you can't pay for what the Most High got. He ain't concerned with your money.
Mm-mm. No, he isn't. And so we see over here that when we look at this, it's interesting that we see again this Balaam, this Balaam character, who again, he's like what's his name? Remember back in the 90s, Miss Cleo. You call up Miss Cleo. Listen, my aunt, the lady who married my uncle, I'm gonna have to verify this, but I'm pretty sure that she was potentially going to work for that calling thing. Because it's not real. They tell you what to do, where you can sit up there and ask certain questions, and like they teach you how to lead the person into getting information, where it seems like you're giving them a reading, but it's really fake.
I know somebody who worked for one of those, and they said basically it was all like filling out the person, and like just it's all fake.
Telling them the obvious.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Well,
And so they're making they're turning this thing that, as far as that goes, that's all wicked to begin with. But the idea of getting this spiritual knowledge and then sharing it or selling it, sharing it would be giving it for free. But but selling it is this wicked thing. And we know that it's wicked. We know that it's wicked over here because let's look at this. Let's look at Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy. Let's look at 18. And let's look at verses 10 through 12. Let's just start here and look at the little thing talks about abominable practices. That gives us an idea. Read at verses 9 through 12.
It says, when you come into the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you, do not learn to do according to the abominations of those nations. Let no one be found among you who makes his son or daughters pass through the fire, or one who practices divination, or a user of magic, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or one who conjures spells, or a medium, or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. For whoever does these is an abomination to Yahweh, and because of these abominations, Yahweh your Elohim drives them out from before you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. So we see over here, hold on 1 second here. Hold on 1 second. All right, we see over here that the Most High, he's calling out all of these things, which I guess at a quick glance, when you look at these things, they all seem sort of connected with each other. If we was to look at all of these, I'm sure there'd be little nuanced things that causes them to be distinct from one another. But you can put them all in one particular category, I would say. But right up here at the top of the list is one who practices divination. Right? Let's see. This is verse 10. This is verse 10. Divination. Yes, that's our word. There's 70, 81 kasem. All right. And so when we look at this, these are these abominable practices. And so when we think about this in connection with Balaam, who, as far as these people are concerned, is known for this, right? And so when we think about that, if we're going to say that Balaam is this diviner, it seems that automatically puts him in the category of wickedness. Right, because he's participating in a forbidden practice. Right, he practices divination. But let's keep on. Let's go back to Numbers 22. And let's go back to let's read from 8 down to 12. Oh my goodness. That seems like an oxymoron, right?
Right, but they have conferences and everything.
Interesting.
And he said to them, spend the night here, and I shall bring back word to you, as Yahweh speaks to me. So the heads of Moab stayed with Balaam. And Elohim came to Balaam and said, who are these men with you? And Balaam said to Elohim, Balak, son of Zippor, sovereign of Moab, he has sent me, saying, see, a people has come out of Mitzrayim, and covered the surface of the land. Come now, curse them for me. It might be that I am able to fight against them and drive them out. And Elohim said to Balaam, do not go with them. You do not curse the people, for they are blessed.
Okay, very good. So we see over here something very interesting. We look at Balaam, where again he is this person who is this known. They know of him as, I don't even want to say he's a known diviner, but these people know of him as a diviner, and they say they want for him to do this cursing of these people. But when we look over here at verse number, well, first of all, 8, Balaam knows that he's going to be able to speak to the Most High. He said, I'll bring back a word to you that I'm going to get from the Most High, from Yahweh, as Yahweh speaks to me. If we look at this, let's see here. If we look at this, verse 8, right? If we looked at that in the Hebrew, he's literally saying Yahweh there, right? And so, for one thing, it's not it's not abstract, where he's saying if, he's going to speak to the power, the mighty one, even Elohim, but actually the Most High, Yahweh, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? He's going to speak to him, and he's going to tell me what to do. In verse 8. And so verse 9, it says that Elohim actually came to Balaam and said something. Right? He's speaking with him. Right? He speaks with him and asks him about these people. And what he wants to do. In verse 12, we go down. He said, the Most High, Elohim said to him, do not go with them. You do not. He gave him two things. Right? First of all, don't go with them. And second of all, you cannot curse the people. And he gave him a reason. They're blessed. Right? So he gave him two instructions. Don't go with the people and don't curse the people. And he gave him a reason, because they're blessed. And so if we now just think about again, who is this character? And he's sitting up here talking to the Most High. The Most High talking back to him. Balaam is a let's see, when we go back up to the beginning, he is Balak. Hold on one second. Verse Elders, where it talks about Balaam first. I'm trying to see what people is he connected to. I know he's been summoned by the Moabites, but who is he? Balak, Amorites, Moab, Midians, Balak, Balaam. Oh, it calls him the son of Beor at Pethor. So it don't give you a clear indication of who those people is necessarily. He's disconnected from the Moabites and the Midianites, but he's not an Israelite for sure. And so again, when we look over here and we see what's going on, he is confident that he's able to go and here tells the people, you guys just hang out here. I'm going to speak to the Most High tonight. Y'all spend the night. I'm going to speak to him. And then I'll get back to y'all about what we're going to do, after the fact. And so, to have that type of confidence, this is something obviously that he has done previously. Mm-hmm. Right? He went back to the Most High and talked to him before. There was no doubt in his mind. If y'all hang out with me tonight, y'all here, stay here. He'll probably come to me in my dream. I'll tell you what he says. So he knows he's going to hear from the Most High with confidence, and he confidently talks to these people, and then the thing that he was confident about actually comes to pass. The Most High literally comes and gives him instructions. Don't go with those people. Don't curse my people. Don't curse the people. And you can't curse them because they're blessed anyway. So this to me is interesting because the thing that these people are thinking that Balaam is going to do is a wicked thing. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if Balaam is wicked, but the people that are calling for him to do a wicked thing, and they have it in their minds that he does these wicked things regularly. He's known for it to them.
Right. They called it out.
We don't know. We don't know if he's known by everybody for this. But as far as they're concerned, if I need somebody to be blessed or cursed, I'm gonna go to Balaam. It could be that they're the only ones that's thinking like that. Mm-hmm. Or Balak is the one who comes up with it. Balak, in Balak's mind, who we need to get with is Balaam. And at least to him, the one who brings it up, at least in his mind, he's known for this.
Mm-hmm. You got a rep.
Right, to him. But I'm saying, what's up with that? Because if the reputation that he has is something that's true, this man here is wicked. And the Most High still working with him.
It's tricky.
How so?
Well, like I was saying, there's, when people are tapping into these, spirits, they got access to information. And, I don't know if he was praying to his spirits and the Most High showed up, nah. Or if he has a connection. Because you see, after everything was said and done, he still finds a way to, undermine the Most High.
Well, okay, so we know what happens because we read this a million times. But if we just go along with the story as it's going, I'm trying to see where is the discrepancies here, because it seems like he's able to access the Most High. It don't seem like the Most High intercepted nothing. Right? It seems like he was meaning to hear from him. And then he's ready to do whatever he says too.
Hey man, I guess it's like, who was that? Was that Isaiah who was thinking he was the only prophet left? And he said he got thousands that, Isaiah obviously didn't know nothing about.
The other ones, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe Balaam is one of these guys that, nobody knew nothing about. I mean, because if you think about the scripture is really a story of him and his relationship with his people. Mm-hmm. It's not about all the other things that he got going on in the world.
That's an interesting perspective. Because when you think about it, I mean, if we're thinking about the scriptures from a particular perspective, that's the perspective that we're thinking about it on.
Right.
And so that's not to cancel out the fact that there could be these other people that he's dealing with that's in the book of the battles of Yahweh that we don't have access to, that no one has access to. These things that he's doing in other places with other people.
I mean,
at the same time.
Yeah, when Cain married somebody from the land of Nod, I'm like, the land of Nod? What?
Like, what is that?
Like,
yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there's things.
There was more going on than
right.
What it's just the perspective of the book.
Yeah.
What they were telling you with these people, but there's a whole bunch of stuff going on everywhere.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the day to where, the layers get pulled off when we get our new bodies and what, and we know what, imagine all of the things that were going on that we had no clue about.
I know, for that knowledge switch just to be turned on.
Right.
Like whenever Neo's sitting up there getting downloaded, he's just like, I kung fu.
Yeah.
Just that knowledge is just turned on.
Right.
And so there's so many things that, we don't have real answers for because the scriptures don't give it to us. We don't know how this person who's known the scripture helps us to see that one person knows him as a diviner. And that's not to say that don't speak about the other people who potentially might also know him to be that. But if that one person knows you as that, I don't want anybody to ever be able to think about me as like a witch. Like if one person thinks of me as a witch, there got to be a reason why. Like, what am I doing that's witchy? Like, that makes this person think of me whenever he thinks about witchy things. Like, I must be doing things that's causing people to think a certain way.
Yep.
And so that's the same thing we think about with Balaam. There, he's known for this, but yet and still we see that he again is hearing from the Most High. And so let's keep on going over here. Let's look at let's read hold on, what did we just read? Down to 12?
Yep.
Alright, read 13 down through 22.
And Balaam rose in the morning and said to the heads of Balak, go back to your land, and Yahweh has refused to allow me to go with you. And the heads of Moab arose and went to Balak and said, Balaam refuses to come with us. Then Balak again sent heads, more numerous and more esteemed than they. And they came to Balaam and said to him, This is what Balak, the son of Zippor, said. Do not be withheld from coming to me, please, for I esteem you very greatly, and whatever you say to me I do. Therefore, please come. Curse this people for me. And Balaam answered and said to the servants of Balak, Though Balak were to give me his house filled with silver and gold, I am unable to go beyond the word of Yahweh my Elohim to do less or more. And now, please, you also stay here tonight and let me find out what more Yahweh says to me. And Elohim came to Balaam at night and said to him, If the men come to you, raise and go with them, but only the word which I speak to you, that you do. And Balaam rose in the morning and saddled his donkey and went to the heads of Moab.
In 22.
But the displeasure of Elohim burned because he went at the messenger of Yahweh, stationed himself in the way as an adversary against him. And he was riding on his donkey, and his two servants were with him.
Okay, very good. So we look over here at Balaam now. This man has a code. It seems. He said to the people, y'all gonna have to go back. Moses said that I'm not allowed to go with you. I'm not allowed to go with you. That's what he said to the people. You know, he seemingly does what the Most High says for him to do. Right? If we just was to look at this right here, it seems as if, you know, he moves according to what the Most High says that he should be doing. He said Yahweh has refused to allow me to go with you. And so now the people now, to me, I think this is an interesting kind of an insight into Balaam. Because now he tells the people that he can't go. And then so now the heads of these people, you know, they obviously go back. And then he sends back more people, more heads, more, important people back to him to try to convince him even more now. And so when you think about it, if I hear the Most High saying to me, don't go over there with them people, y'all go ahead back, let them people go back, don't go with them. If I hear that, in my mind, that's the end of the story.
End of the conversation.
It's over. So if you coming back, then what I'm supposed to do? Go back to the Most High and say, I know you said before not to go, but
are you sure?
Yeah. Did you mean it? Did you mean it really for me not to go? But that's what happens, right? The Most High gave him an answer already to the question. And so the people come back and question Balaam more and try to entice him more. And then so he's like, they kind of making this hard for me to pass up. They bringing all of these things, like
what is it?
The rewards of divination.
Right.
Them things is getting bigger and bigger, right?
Right.
So they coming back with more "Oh, Balaam, you're so highly esteemed. You're this great man." And this great men that's saying it to him. Like, you just say no to like a regular guy.
Right.
And then they go back and get like these people that potentially you looking at like, wow, he's somebody. Like,
Right.
this is like the mayor and them coming over to my house.
President.
Like, yeah, all that. And so in his mind, I'm saying based on what he does, if he's going back for another answer after the Most High already gave him an answer, you know, that's giving you now a little insight into this man, where it's helping you to understand that yes, he's hearing from the Most High, but there's also this other thing that's pulling at him, that's causing there to be a little bit of a chink in his proverbial armor over here. Because like I said, if I hear the Most High say no, and I know that I'm hearing that. We're not even at the point where he's saying, like, is the Most High really saying this? But he's like, I know you said that I can't go, but can I go?
Well, it kind of reminds me of when Abraham was reasoning about the righteous people. If there was, 100 righteous people,
Yeah.
if there were 50, it seemed like he just kept going back to the well.
But why was he doing that though?
It was just for something righteous. He wanted to save people's lives.
Well, I feel like he knew Lot was over there.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
So there was a reason though, right? There was a reason why he was doing that. His reason was Lot,
Right.
his people. And so what's the reason behind Balaam? There's a reason. There got
these his people. I mean, he lived in the area.
It could be his people.
Right.
Those could be his people. I didn't look back to connect who these
Well, it says they were elders from Moab and Midian.
Well, I'm saying
Balaam.
to look back to see who Beor at Pathor, Balaam, where his lineage goes.
Right.
If we could know that. If he has some affinity to these people where he wants to
Right.
try to help them.
Right.
Because that's a good example that you give, but it helps us to understand that he's doing this back and forth thing just like Abraham, because there's a reason why
Yeah,
he don't want to
there's
just
something,
accept
yeah.
just a straightforward answer.
Right.
It could be that, or it could be just the things that they're offering.
Rewards of divination. And that's what I wanted to clear that up too, because the scripture really doesn't say that Balaam practices divination. It says that the elders of Midian and Moab brought the rewards of divination.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's something maybe they do on a regular, like, oh yeah, this is what we're going to have to give these people.
Yeah.
Because it really don't call like Balaam someone who does practices divination.
Right.
And we know that he ain't going to practice divination and get the Most High.
Right. Yeah, that's the only thing. And that's kind of like what I was saying is that he's notorious, at least in their minds, for a thing. And it could really be their perverted minds.
Right.
It could just be that people go to him and he tells them what the Most High says.
Right.
And maybe they, I don't know, maybe they leave an offering or something.
Yeah, I mean,
or maybe they don't. Maybe they don't. But because of these people's practices,
right,
that's how they get
in
down.
their land, maybe that's what they, they probably got all kind of diviners in their land, and they know they got to bring some bread.
So they're treating him potentially, because we don't know. Potentially, they're treating him as if he is a diviner,
Right.
whether he is or not.
Right.
The scriptures is really unclear.
Right.
And we really don't see the who Balaam really is until we see the fruit of all of this chapters later.
Right.
But when we look at this, it's kind of obscure and it's hard to even really say because he's like edging, he's tiptoeing in disobedience.
Right.
But it's not outright blatant.
Right. Right.
He seems to be on the fence a bit,
He seems to be on the fence.
which is a bad place to be.
Right. But that's why I was saying maybe there's some type of, there's some type of connection that's making him be on the fence.
Yeah.
And the
yeah.
Most High is probably understanding his connection. Like,
I
look,
mean, you're making me think about it in a whole other way. Because I want to just say that his connection is money.
right.
But those could really be his people over there. But again, when you think about it, Israel's not on this rampage to slaughter the people that's in their path.
Right. Yeah.
And so there's a way around this without cursing Israel.
Go talk to him.
Yeah.
Nobody ever went to go talk
Let's
to
just,
him.
I
like,
know, let's just have a conversation.
Yeah.
Can we just talk about it?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why do it gotta be one thing or the other?
Yeah. Why you gotta curse me?
I know.
Just come talk to me. Right?
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
So there's that for me. There's that
Right.
is that it don't gotta be that.
Right.
But again, it goes back to the idea of the way that we behave. When our actions are fear based, we're not always we're out of touch with reality at times when the things that we're doing is based on fear. And so, I mean, your reason, I guess, is potentially righteous almost. If those is his people, and he wants for his people potentially to come out on top.
Yeah, not be wiped out.
Yeah, I mean it's a possibility, because the scriptures don't say. But when we see over here, again, we look at this. It's interesting that he has this. We see at least he has this code where he's making these moves where what is the Most High, what does he say about it? So when we go down, let's see here. They brought him all of this silver and gold. It goes back down. Let's say this one's kind of tricky for me. This whole 19 thing. Stay another night, and I'll see some more. Even though the Most High already gave him an answer. That just leads to this underlying thing that he wants to do what they want for him to do. Because if he didn't want to, it would be over.
Right.
It'd have been a done deal if there wasn't some reason. It's an unknown reason to us, but there's some reason why he's not able to just let it be at no, don't go. So he wants to keep on going, and the Most High is going along with this whole thing. He wasn't like, I said no, just be done with it.
Right.
He says now here, the Most High puts a stipulation on it. If the men come to call you, rise up and go with them. But when you go with them, only say what I tell you to say. Now, I don't know if inspiration is leaving something out, but by the time we get to the next verse, it say Balaam rose in the morning, he got on his horse, and he goes to Moab. Where was if the men come to call you? Where did that happen at?
Right. They didn't come to call.
They came to call you before he went to bed.
Right.
They were supposed to come back again
Right.
to call you, and then you could go with them.
Nah, he's gonna go go seek them out.
He done messed up right here. Now you done messed up. He done messed up right here. Because he put a clause on the situation. If the men come to call you, rise up and go with them. All we see Balaam doing is going up and getting on this donkey.
Right.
So we see now some disobedience from Balaam over here, because there was a part of the process that's missing out of this situation. Because again, like you added an interesting dynamic to this whole situation, is that there's this thing that's causing him, whatever this thing is. It's an unknown thing, but it's a strong and powerful thing. I want it to just be greed and money. That's what I want it to be.
It could be that, but it could be the fact that he has history with these people, and maybe they've been paying his pockets for a long time.
Yeah.
He like, man, I don't want this money train to stop.
Yeah.
Or it could be that they, there's some type of relation, or you know what I mean?
It's something.
It's something.
Yeah. It's something that's holding him back. That at this point, then all that done brought him to the point of disobedience, where, there's a chance.
Right. Yep. The Most High let me leave my toes.
Yeah. Okay. So let's keep on going here. Let's go down. Let's see how far we're gonna go here. Let's see. Oh, before we do that, before we keep going, let's look at some of these. Let's look at some scriptures here. Let's go over to Isaiah. I can't really see this thing. Okay, here we go. Isaiah chapter 1. Let's just read let's read verse let's read 13 through 15.
Stop bringing futile offerings. Incense, it is an abomination to me. New moon, Sabbath, the calling of gatherings, I am unable to bear on righteousness and assembly. My being hates your new moons and your appointed times. They are a trouble to me. I am weary of bearing them. And when you spread out your hands, I hide my eyes from you. Even though you make many prayers, I do not hear. Your hands have become filled with blood.
Okay, when we look over here at the things that the Most High has to say through his prophet to his disobedient people, these people who he's referring to are people who are still doing things, still doing prescribed things towards the Most High. But he said, when you spread out your hands, I hide my eyes from you. And you make many prayers and I don't hear them. Your hands have become filled with blood. So there's a point where the Most High is not even dealing with these disobedient people. But it seems like, that being the case, it seems like potentially we could say that this is a pivot point potentially for Balaam. Mm-hmm. Where his hands may not be full of blood at this point, but he's moving in that direction. Because he's hearing from the Most High. He's hearing from him. Yeah. Most High didn't turn his face from him. Mm-hmm. He's telling them stuff. Like, don't do this. Do that instead. Like, so it seems to me, I'm saying that when I look at this, this is kind of a pivot point for Balaam, where he makes a turn for the bad, and he don't come back for whatever the reason is. Because when you get so far, the Most High, he give you over to your reprobate mind, and he give you the things that you want. He'll give it to you. He'll give you a chance because he is a merciful Elohim. He'll give you a chance, but at some point, he give you exactly what it is that you want, whether you supposed to have that thing or not.
Right.
And so when I look at this verse, when I look at things like when we see over here, and let's look over here at this, Micah 3 and 4. What's verse 4 saying?
4, it says, therefore, when they cry to Yahweh, he does not answer them, and hides his face from them at that time, as they have made their deeds evil.
And so again, we see there is a place that you get to where the Most High just not even dealing with you, and he hides his face from you. But when we look at Balaam and what's going on with him, he hasn't reached that point. But again, he's obviously moving in that direction. Because again, the Most High, he's asking for answers to something that the Most High already answered. You know, kids, they do that. Can I get a cookie, Daddy?
That's
No.
the first thing I thought about.
No, you can't. Like, it's pretty straightforward. Like, no. Please. Wait a second. I answered you already. We're done with this. This is over. Like, you say please before I give you an answer. But after I give you an answer, now you want me to go back. You want me to go back on what I've said already.
Say yes, ma'am.
Because this baby really wants the cookie. Right? We're going back to this underlying thing that's going on inside of Balaam, whether it be greed or some type of connection that he has with these people over there that's pulling on him, that's causing him to not accept the straightforward answers that the Most High has given to him. All right, but let's keep on going over here. Numbers.
Didn't like Yeshua do the same thing though?
What you mean?
When he went on top of that mountain, he's praying to the Most High to have that cup pass from him.
But he
know that he had to take that cup.
Yeah.
He knows he had to do that. So
yeah.
He
But
kind of did.
But again, right, with that situation, it's the same thing. Really, there's something that's going on that's causing you to I don't know if it's, I don't want to say it is, if it's doubt. Maybe it is doubt. We gotta say what it is, right? There's something that's pulling you, that's driving you away from what it is that the Most High is doing, that leads you to that place of wanting something other than what you know that the Most High is already. In his case, in Yeshua's case, we know that the shame that he took upon himself, was going to cause a separation between him and the Father, which has never been done before. There's never been a separation like that when he takes on the sin of the world, of his people, of Israel. And so when we see that excellent example, it goes along with the thing that we're saying over here, is that there's something, we don't know what the something is, but there's something that's causing you to want more than what you've already been given. You have a straightforward answer. is there. Yeshua knew what he had to do. And he says, is there another way? He wants that other way because that helps you to understand his carnality. His humanity. The fact that the flesh don't want to go through these things.
It's weak.
Right? And so, but in Yeshua's case, as soon as the words come out of his mouth, he's already taken them back.
Right. But his spirit was willing.
And so that's an excellent example because it helps for us to pinpoint where this is coming from. If it's greed, if it's money, or whatever it is, at the end of the day, if he's going to put it in the category, it's carnality that's working against what the Spirit is having for. The Spirit saying, don't go. The Spirit saying, this is what you have to do. But the flesh is saying, is there another way that we could do this?
He was tempted at all ways, just like we are.
Yeah.
He
That's a Bible verse,
all.
what you're saying right there. That's a verse in the Bible. He was tempted in every way. But yet, what do it say exactly? Pull that up because that's... But yes, 100%, that's Yeshua did the exact same thing. And when we see that, but the difference is now, Yeshua didn't go into any other ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Balaam, he's trying to see, I know there's another way.
Mm-hmm.
That I know we could get around this whole no thing that you're saying.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's feeding into that carnality. He's feeding into the flesh. He's feeding into what it is that his appetites, that his carnal appetites are drawing him into.
Oh wait! I think it's Hebrew.
What this say right here?
Hebrew 4.
Oh, hold on.
15.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull that up right after this. What this say? You should not tempt Yahweh your Elohim as you tempted him in Massah. Deuteronomy 16. Rebellion. Yeah, definitely. When you think about the idea of, he's basically kind of calling. He's calling on and kind of depending on the mercy of the Most High, and basing his judgments on what he thinks maybe the Most High may do. Right? I know he's he cares about me and he cares about his people and he wants the best for me, this and that. He wants to give me my desires, so maybe if I force the issue, he could be there for me. But the Most High don't want that from us. He wants for us to do what it is that he wants for us to do, and anything other than that is in fact disobedience. Okay, what?
That was Hebrews 4:15.
Hebrews.
It says, "For we do not have a high priest unable to sympathize with our weakness, but one who was tried in all respects, as we are, apart from sin."
Mm-hmm. I like. Sometimes you just like the
King James.
KJV. What that saying in KJV down there?
It says, "For we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feelings of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin.
And so, that just says it all right there. The fact that he experienced his carnality to the fullness, but he never took that thought to the point of manifestation.
Right.
Right.
As a word, we can't say that about Balaam. We can't say that about Balaam, right? Because of
about nobody
well,
Yeah.
there's many people we can't say that about, and Balaam is one of those. Because again, he literally is in direct disobedience. Whenever he said, when they come and call you, then you go. But he just gets up and goes. All right, so let's go down to 23. 23. Let's read down to 30.
It says, and the donkey saw the messenger of Yahweh standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand, and the donkey turned aside out of the way and went into the field. So Balaam struck the donkey and turned her back on the way. Then the messenger of Yahweh stood in a narrow passage between the vineyards with a wall on this side and a wall on that side. And when the donkey saw the messenger of Yahweh, she pushed herself against the wall and crushed Balaam's foot against the wall. So he struck her again. And the messenger of Yahweh went further and stood in the narrow place where there was no way to turn aside, left or right. And when the donkey saw the messenger of Yahweh, she laid down under Balaam, and Balaam's displeasure burned, and he struck the donkey with his staff.
Ooh.
And then Yahweh opened the mouth of the donkey, and she said to Balaam, what have I done to you that you have stricken me these 3 times? And Balaam said to the donkey, because you have mocked me, I wish there were a sword in my hand, for I would have killed you by now. And the donkey said to Balaam, I am not your donkey on which am I not your donkey which you have ridden ever since I became yours to this day? Was I ever known to do so to you? And he said no.
And so this is an interesting little thing that's going on with Balaam over here, because now we see that we see more of this manifestation of this strong desire for him to go where he's going. Right, the first thing we saw was him going in the first place, because he didn't never meet the prerequisite of going. But now that we see that he is on this way, the Most High then tries to give him a chance. Even it says that the displeasure of Elohim burned because he went. And then he sends this messenger on the way to not all the way stop him, but just to kind of like give him a little pause.
Back, yeah. Make him think. Bro, what are you doing?
And so if he's in line with the Ruach, if he's in line with the Spirit, where he has these obstacles that are coming in his path, if he knows what it is that the Most High is doing, if he's so connected, he knows that there's an angel right there. Like the donkey knows. The donkey's like, wait, I'm not walking through that.
Yeah, he sees
The
danger.
donkey's like,
And
we can't.
And like, I know from experience, like dealing with my dog, right? So, when he got room to run, when he knows he's in trouble, he got room to run. He'll go to other. He'll avoid me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But when I corner him and he ain't got nowhere to go, he'll just lay down in total submission, like just lay down. That's exactly what the donkey did.
Yeah.
Like he knows that. Look, that I'm just gonna submit right now, like because I don't know what's about to happen. We about to die here? And so it's an amazing story.
Mm-hmm. And so we see over here something is blocking the vision of Balaam. Something's blocking his vision, whether it be greed, or whether it be some type of connection to this place and these people. His selfish desires, we could say that. We could say his selfish desires are blocking his vision. And so he's not able to understand that there's a messenger of Yahweh that has stationed himself in the way. That's blocking his way and keeping him from moving forward. And so he's sitting up here taking it out on the donkey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you think about going somewhere where you supposed to be at and your car break down,
I was just thinking the same thing. I was just thinking the same
and you gonna sit up here and you curse your car because you got to be somewhere and your car's broke. But do we ever think about the fact that the Most High really could be saving us from something by setting us back 10 minutes or an hour or a day behind? Because the Most High saving us from something where he potentially could have been like beforehand, don't go there. And you made a way for yourself to get there. And so instead of letting you go into harm's way, the Most High is literally stopping you from going. And now you mad at the vehicle, whatever vehicle that is, your means of transportation. You mad at that instead of understanding the divine providence of the Most High. Now, it could be a thing where it's just, these things are happening and the Most High just working it out in your favor. But when we think about this, when we see this, in the fullness of what's going on, Balaam is really operating in disobedience. And the Most High still is giving him a chance to forsake that disobedience. He's giving him a chance to turn around. He's given Balaam a chance to repent. He's giving him 3 chances. He blocks his way. The donkey goes one way. He blocks another way. The donkey lays down, and all of these times, he's given Balaam a chance to say, "All right, we just ain't gonna go nowhere.
Just turn around.
Just turn around. Just don't even go. Just forget it." Because if he stops and thinks long enough, he's able to remember, there was this if that happened that was never met. There was this prerequisite that the Most High said that I need to wait for, and that thing never happened. But he's so focused and he's so tuned in to his selfish desires, whatever those things are, we don't know. He's so tuned into those selfish desires, his vision is blocked. And then so much so that he gets to the place of talking to this animal. The animal talks to him, and he still don't cause him to just like Wait a second. Am I supposed to be going over here?
I mean, and imagine if he did have a sword, he probably would have killed the animal.
He said it.
The animal that was saving him.
And so again, okay, when we look at this, it's interesting when we see these things that connect all of these things together. We see another example of Balaam now hates the thing that becomes his salvation, the donkey. Right, just like we saw before with the people, they had this, this hatred for the manna that was falling, that became their salvation. We see how the people hated Yeshua. It became their salvation. Balaam hates this donkey, which if he would have just listened to the donkey, it could have been his salvation. But he pushes through. This man is faithful to his selfish desires. He stands firm in his selfish desires, and he's moving forward with the plan. All right, keep on going. Let's see. We stopped at
33 or
30.
32?
Start reading at 31.
31. Then Yahweh opened Balaam's eyes. He saw the messenger of Yahweh standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand. And he bowed his head and fell to his face. And the messenger said to him, Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? See, I have come out to stand against you because your way is reckless before me. And the donkey saw me and turned aside from me these 3 times. If she did not turn aside from me, I certainly would have killed you by now and let her live. And Balaam said to the messenger of Yahweh, I have sinned, for I did not know you stood in the way against me. And now, if evil is in your eyes, let me turn back. And the messenger of Yahweh said to Balaam, Go with the men, but only the word that I speak to you, that you speak. Balaam went with the heads of Balak.
Okay, very good. So now we see over here, now after all of this, now Balaam is repentant. But it took for the Most High to open his eyes, to cause him to view, the spiritual reality of the situation. It took that for him to really see what he needed to actually be doing.
Yep.
And so it's interesting that, when we look at this and kind of analyze the situation, the blindness, the thing that kept Balaam from being able to see was a self-inflicted thing. Right? The blindness was something that was happening based on the selfish desires that was in Balaam. He wanted to do what he wanted to do so bad that he was no longer able to have that proper spiritual vision and hear from the Most High. And so then it took a spiritual intervention for him to be able to see again.
A near-death experience.
This thing that almost took him out. But we see the mercy of the Most High in this situation, where he literally was going to allow for him to be killed. But he because he caused this animal saved his life from death. And so, it helps us to be able to see that, our carnal desires is always going to cause us to sin. And it's always going to cause us to, it's going to put blinders on us where we're not able to see what it is that we're supposed to be seeing. Our carnal mind. And so, when you think about the idea of speaking to, talking to, dealing with, people who are really ruled by their carnal mind, they're Balaam. Right? They're in a situation where they're not able to even see or understand things from a spiritual perspective. And so it don't matter what you do. Right? Until the Most High is able to, allow them to see properly, they're never going to see. Right? Because when you think about this from a logical perspective, Balaam, he should have known already. He should have known, if he was thinking correctly, he should have known that he was in error. He should have known that. He should have been able to see that this angel was there. But because he was being driven through his carnality, it blocked his whole vision. And so this is what happens with us whenever we sit up here and allow for our flesh to be the thing that motivates us, to be the thing that pushes us through life, is that we'll never be at the place that the Most High will have for us to be if our carnal desires is the thing that's moving us forward, because that is always going to block our vision. When you think about Yeshua, when he talks to the rich person who he tells, give up all of your riches and follow me. And the guy, he's like, you want me to give up all my riches? Like, but the Yeshua's asking him to remove all of his carnal, his selfish desires out of the way so that his vision won't be blocked. And so, when you think about this again from a spiritual perspective, these things, this really helps us to be able to understand and see from a practical standpoint that the Most High wants for us to be concentrated on Him and what it is that He has to say about things, so that we're able to move through this life. And when we allow this life and these carnal desires to get in the way, we're putting blinders on ourselves and blinding our own selves and making it impossible for us to be able to move forward until there is a spiritual intervention that happens that causes us to be able to see again. And so, we have to be attacking these situations. I'm saying you and I have to be attacking these situations from a spiritual standpoint first. And asking the Most High, if I got to deal with this person or that person, I need for you first just to take the blinders off of this person so that they can even hear. Unstop their ears so that they can hear. Take the blinders off of their eyes so that they can see. Because otherwise, you talking to Balaam over here, who is this person who could hear from the Most High. But because of the fact that he has these selfish desires and these things are ruling his every move, he's unable to see the spiritually obvious. I can sit up here and prove to you in the Bible what it is that you need to be doing all day long. But until the Most High removes the blinders from your eyes, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Because what is going to happen to that person, is going to be the same thing that needs to happen to, the same thing that did happen to Balaam over here in verse 31. That if that don't happen first, then it ain't going to happen. In 31, where it says that Yahweh opened Balaam's eyes. That's when he was able to see and get a glimpse into the spiritual realm to know what was what. Okay, all right, we read down to, hold on, what verse did we read down to?
35.
Okay, let's pick back up at 36 and finish up this chapter here.
Says, and when Balak heard that Balaam was coming, he went out to meet him at the city of Moab, which is on the border at the Arnon, which was at the extremity of the border. And Balak said to Balaam, do I not urgently send to you, calling for you? Why did you not come to me? I'm not able to esteem you. Am I not able to esteem you? And Balaam said to Balak, see, I have come to you. Now am I at all able to say somewhat the word that Elohim puts in my mouth, that I speak? And Balaam went to Balak, and they came to Husoth, and Balak slaughtered cattle and sheep, and he sent some to Balaam and to the heads who were with him. And it came to be in the morning that Balak took Balaam and brought him up to the high places of Baal, and from there he saw the extremity of the camp.
Okay, very good. And so, when we look over here as this chapter comes to a close here, we see that Balaam is still entertaining the idea of, whatever it is that Balak is offering. Right? He's still letting there be a chance, an opportunity for that's Joseph.
Oh, okay.
He's still allowing for there to be a chance that he will do what Balak is asking for him to do. And so again, we see this kind of this downward spiral of Balaam, as he goes through these different processes, with this whole ordeal. What he does really at this point is irrelevant, because it's like, he should have got to the place where he just nipped the whole thing in the bud and was done with it. But he continues to kind of entertain the idea of, maybe the Most High will let me do this thing. Right? He continues to let that door be open that he actually should have shut long ago. And so, this really helps us to be able to really think about the way in which we, really should be operating. Because, whatever we have to say about Balaam, we know that he heard from the Almighty.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And this whole thing that we live in terms of walking in the spirit, right? We who believe in Yeshua, have that Ruach HaKodesh, and that spirit is supposed to be the thing that leads and guides us through our everyday life. And so when we're these individuals who are hearing from the Spirit, who are being led and guided by the Ruach HaKodesh, we're able to see that there's things that we do that's going to cause us, that's going to block our hearing. There's things that we're able to do as people who hear from the Most High. There's things that we're able to do or not do that's going to cause us to not be able to do the most important thing that there is for us to be doing, and that is being led by the Spirit of the Almighty. And so we have to be sure and careful that we are not leaving the door and the opportunity of sin, leaving that door open for sin to walk through it, or for us to to walk through it. Right? He's putting himself in harm's way, where he could have really just said, I'm done with this. I can't do it. I can't do what you're asking me. It's over, isn't this? But because he won't just stand on a particular position, because he is leaving the door open, sin is going to find its way, and he's not behaving in a way that is conducive for success. And so again, it should help us to be able to understand that, when we see these opportunities for sin, we got to close those doors.
Yeah.
Right? We can't just leave those doors open because somebody gonna walk through it. Them doors, we got to close them doors up and lock them up tight.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we can't forget the fact that the Most High is merciful towards his people. But there is a point where he's going to say, you ones that are wicked, you just gonna be wicked still.
It's a cutoff point.
It's a cutoff point. Those that are righteous, they're gonna be righteous still. But there's gonna be a time where he's gonna say, I'm just gonna let you do whatever it is that you do, whether it be right or wrong, and there's not gonna be no more wooing for you. He's not gonna be sitting up here trying to reel you in. He's gonna just let you go and do whatever you want to do.
He's gonna honor your free will.
He's gonna honor it. And I want for my free will to move me towards Messiah. I want for my free will to move me towards righteousness. I don't want for the Most High to sit up here and have to be begging me to be right. I want to be right. I want to be able to keep his commandments, and for his commandments not to be grievous. Mm-hmm. I want for those things to be things that I'm doing because of the fact that I love the Most High, and I want to live a life that's pleasing in his sight. And so I think for this, okay, we're going to stop this right here. We're going to pick back up with the story because there's more. But we're going to go ahead and save that for next week and deal with the rest of this story of Balaam and see where this actually goes. Do we have any last thoughts or questions or comments about any of this before we shut this down?
Don't be Balaam out here.
Yes. Okay. All right. So that being said, we're going to say Shabbat Shalom for now. Yahweh will be back on next Shabbat to continue on with our look at Balaam. Until then, we want everybody to make sure that you share this video. People that you share it with, tell them to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification. Leave some comments. Hit the like button for the video. And y'all willing, like I said, we'll be back on next Shabbat again.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.